Hello, welcome to Book Club Dose Chapter 2. Sorry this is taking a little bit, as you will see in my next video that will be dropping in like the next week or so. I have been deeply mentally unwell, and I have been deeply mentally unwell. Anyways, Chapter 2. Really excited about this one, honestly. This is where we begin to talk about kind of the transition from the pre-1970s, like slightly post-1970s time of idealism and growth and prosperity and this optimistic vision of the future. And then we get to the second part, the 00 decade, in which we begin to see things basically completely rapidly decline. Lightning fucking fast. And a lot of the stuff in this chapter really felt helpful for me to not only contextualize like some of the things from the first chapter, but just kind of in life in general. And there's a couple of really important things that Bifo, these nuts, introduces in this chapter that I think is incredibly important. Also, I need to check the time to make sure I don't run over really long. But okay, yeehaw, let's get going. So I think the first thing that I want to talk about, which is in the questions, is why Bifo calls the year of the 2000s onward the decade of impotence. And I think a lot of the examples he brings up is really interesting to contextualize this, particularly about 9/11, for example. Basically, you know, in the 2000s, like, there was the dot-com boom. Technology was still going crazy. We were beginning to see the rise of social media. Like, all of these very computer, socially oriented technologies kind of began to bubble up and rise to the top, become very profitable. Amazon was also coming up in this time, obviously, and the idea of like interconnectivity from a like manufacturing and delivery space was also expanding. Just like a lot of expansion in the connectivity sphere was super important. But it's kind of important that around this time, it felt like the ability for us to have, I think, a broader like political or cultural response to some of these things were kind of dying out. Like there's like even today, which we feel fully, like there's almost this sense of like stagnation and helplessness just around all of the things that just proceed to happen on a day-to-day basis. Like literally yesterday, as I'm recording this, Trump bombed Iran. And I'm like, literally, what do I do? Like literally, what do I fucking do? Shout out to the No Kings protesters out there. Anyways, I think one of the most important things to start with is like 9/11 for sure. Like he specifically mentions that as like a really great example. Stop fucking discording me. 9/11 to this day is still basically a meme. Like it's still constantly going. Never forget, I see fucking memes all the time. I make 9/11 references all the time. It's just this looped moment that is endlessly milked continuously to this day. But it is not a moment that feels like it really had anything come out of it. Like there wasn't a collective response. There was just this broader a broader expression of fear and panic and disorientation. Like the media went fucking crazy. There were countless attacks on Islamic and Muslim peoples as a result of this. And to this day, that is still very much a thing, just manifesting in a bunch of different ways. The US and its allies responded in militarized force, which not a lot of people liked. And this was kind of, I think, one of the first major moments of really showing the large level of kind of erosion of public trust and like civil liberties and like our kind of position of global stability that basically made everybody be like, oh, so is the future just going to be endless war and violence now? Because like we didn't have anything to go off of. It's completely fucking crazy. And in smaller ways that I actually really liked, he points out how social concepts have like also kind of decayed and lost meaning in action to basically become like aesthetic in a way. Like the idea of debt that he mentions on page 74 in the book. It might not be in the PDF, but same area. Anyways, like the idea of like the concept of debt like being a bet on the future, for example. Like I've never in my life thought of it that way. Debt always felt like I was hamstringing myself for no good reason that will inevitably make my future worse because of my inability to properly deal with debt now. In literally any form. Like it couldn't even, like it couldn't be, or it doesn't even have to be like major debt, like a fucking house loan or something. It could even be like this small, like, social debt, like somebody buying me dinner. Like I still have this deep, immense guilt whenever anybody buys me anything, and that feels bad. It should be like, okay, somebody did a nice thing for me, and now I have to do a nice thing for them, not because like of this deep-seated fear of like owing somebody something lest they hate me, but because it is a nice socially acceptable thing to do to preserve the fabric of society. And the small deterioration of things like that into just bleak hopelessness really feels like it started at the beginning with major events like 9/11 and the dot-com crash. Another thing that I really, really like that he talks about is semiocapitalism. This was really interesting to me, and it finally gave me a word to describe a lot of the things that I've been feeling about how the world works now with all our social medias. Rather than how it has been and how we are described. So just real quick for people who are slightly confused about what it exactly is. Capitalism, as we all know, is the dominant economic system that we live under. It is defined by certain people. Get back here, phone. By certain people or entities owning the means of the production of goods and of services in a private manner, which people then work for. They sell their labor to these people in exchange for money to save, and the profit of those things that people work to make, that the companies own and then sell, goes to the corporation and is unevenly distributed to the workers. This is because the value of something is broadly determined by the laissez-faire market, in which it's dictated by market forces. A lot of people will say like this works well, like this can work well, but there are always things that are like interfering with market forces, which allow things like monopolies or people taking advantage of market situations in a way that like shouldn't be happening, or corporations are being hamstringed. If the free market didn't have anything to do with any of this, or if the free market was working as intended, we wouldn't have any of these problems at all. Those people are fucking stupid. But the point of this is all of those things revolve around the idea of making physical goods, like physical goods that we produce from raw materials that we then sell, and that is what keeps the economy churning. Like that is the main important part, privately owned production of physical material goods. Semiocapitalism, the semio at the beginning of capitalism is taken from the field of study semiotics, which is about the study of language and words and symbols and how we all collectively interpret and view those symbols to be able to communicate and indicate things around. Like, for example, if I go, this is a camera. Camera. I'm saying the word camera, and you are seeing this thing and visually being able to know that this is a camera. Semiotics is very, very simply the idea of developing and understanding those signs and symbols, be they physical objects, the actual words we read on the page, looking at the fucking moon outside at night. It's understanding collective interpretations of how we look at things and how we define them. Semiocapitalism, when you smash those two together, is capitalism that no longer relies on or is chiefly determined by the production of physical material goods, but the production of signs and symbols and emotions and information. We may still use physical goods and materials in the way that it's necessary for those signs and symbols to be produced, but the material goods aren't where all the profit actually comes from. For example, why do you think basically every big tech company these days is still going? Like when they have been essentially profitless or just becoming profitless for years and years. Like Lyft still doesn't make a profit. It still is not a profitable company, but it is still going and it still has been going. It spends so much money on infrastructure, on computer shit, on software engineering. AI is another good example of this. A lot of it is still barely profitable or not profitable at all in the case of old Zuckerberg's Meta. But they're putting so much money into building and making things to make the AI work. This is because so much money these days is generated through your engagement with these things. You are what makes Lyft run. You are what makes the AI work. You are what makes YouTube run, what makes Spotify run, TikTok run. You need to look at all of the ads and click on them in order for them to be valuable. Keeping you engaged with this, constantly feeding you these signs and symbols, oftentimes in dishonest, agitated ways, in the case of like insane AI ads or people making rage bait videos that rely on manipulating your emotions in order to actually produce a profit from you seeing these ads, is a necessary part of the system. Because that's where the money is. It isn't in the physical goods like the computer hardware or the servers or the AI chips that NVIDIA is doing or any of that. It's on your signs. It's on you engaging with the things that this shit makes. It's you being plugged into the system that is what makes it valuable. The system produces the signs, or sometimes you produce signs and symbols. In the case of like me making my videos, right? This is something you are engaging with because YouTube puts fucking ads on a lot of my videos. Like that is generating them money. All of this is working together to have one big constant info stream that we continually work off of. I know it sounded a little complicated, But who the fuck is texting me? But the really important part of this is that because it is all in here, it's all in here, right? It's become completely detached from reality in a way. Our labor, us producing the value, the items, the signs and the symbols, they are no longer restricted by time because they are happening all of the time. For example, back in the old days, we'd go into work to the assembly line at Henry Ford's factory. We'd work for longer than we should, but then we'd go home, right? Neat divide of physical labor working time to leisure, going home, have fun, and probably beating your wife and kids time, right? Two divisions of our time and use of it. But now, because everything kind of blends together, our ability to kind of monitor our time and kind of chronologically orient ourselves has rapidly declined, because for some of us, perhaps, we're on our computers all day at work, like doing a bunch of fucking emails, regulating our emotions to be able to fit in and work at our stupid little workplace. And then maybe we go home and we look at brain rot all fucking day. We constantly scroll. We're constantly like looking at things being fed into the system via our work, via our job, maybe via some online groups we engage with. And it slowly begins to blend together, particularly for people who maybe like work remote and don't go outside much. Like then you're just inside on screens basically all of the time. And it can feel like you lose this sense of rhythm in how your life is progressing. It just stays very stagnant. So there was a lot of words, and I probably talked too long about that, but it's really important to understand that the economy now relies so much on the internet, and the fact that so much of our labor has become cognitive rather than physical. Like we don't have to be in a specific place to do the vast majority of it now. We could even be doing it passively wherever, and that detachment is what's incredibly, incredibly important. And then I've just been fucking rambling about semiocapitalism for fucking ever. And then after that, where the hell was I? Yeah, this is the quote that I wanted to mention on page 86 about this. International economic theory is obsolete. Traditional factors of production, land, labor, and capital are becoming restraints rather than driving forces. Knowledge is becoming the one critical factor of production. It has two incarnations. Knowledge applies to existing processes, service, and products is productivity. Knowledge applied to new is innovation. Knowledge has become the central key resource that knows no geography. It underlies the most significant and unprecedented social phenomena of this century. No class in history has ever risen as fast as the blue-collar worker, and no class has fallen so fast, all within this century. Like, this has all happened so fucking fast, from dot-com booms to smartphones, and now we have Chat GPT, like, rotting our brains and becoming so important that we're literally finally investing into nuclear power to make this scam of a technology actually work. It's completely ridiculous. Money and the state are no longer able to govern or discipline the world of production now that its center is not a deep brain force, a uniform and quantifiable time of manual work. That center is now occupied by mind flows, by the ethereal substance of intelligence, which eludes every measurement and cannot be subjected to any rule without inducing enormous pathologies, causing a truly maddening paralysis of cognition and affectivity. Like, all of this has become so nebulous and undefined. Like, you see tech companies throw around like, we're being way more productive, we're doing so much innovation, the power of the cloud, it's going to be 8 times faster. Like, there's all this vague language that is endlessly being pumped in, all of this just stuff that's constantly being shoved at us through our screens and how we engage with stuff constantly, that it's impossible to like measure anything anymore. And like so many like defined ways to like get some sort of grounding is a form of measurement of time and production and quantity. But if you can't, you can't measure this. Like you can try, but like you can't. And it's just, oh, it just gives me so much fucking anxiety. Another thing I like that he talks about, just to fucking move right along, is irony, which we all know somebody who's been irony poisoned. Maybe some of us have been irony poisoned in the past ourselves. But we've become so drenched in irony as a culture, and I think part of that is the general disillusionment that we have been suffering this entire time, where now we feel like it's almost like a coping mechanism, where we have to kind of engage with something with this ironic shield, lest we reach a level of emotional invulnerability that makes us cry in the middle of a Wendy's. This is literally everywhere. I think it's a larger part of the rise of like the black pill and the red pill movements, either descending into complete nihilism or not realizing when you have hit a level of irony that is actually poisoning your brain, that you begin to believe it almost as like a comfort mechanism. Which in turn can make you like unseriously take things like the issue of women's rights, civil rights, LGBT rights, labor problems, and become like a capitalist bootlicker. Essentially, it's just like irony poisoning is such a defining point. It's such a defining nature of it. Feels like the 21st century. This also goes into something that Berardi said similarly about how depression has also become symbolic of like the general collapse of this vision of political and cultural futurism. Like, irony and depression, I think, are incredibly intertwined. It very much seems like this, what are my fucking notes even saying? I should have done this. This, like, I think depression ties in very nicely into what I was talking about earlier, where things seem very meaningless, directionless, hopelessness. Like, that is kind of partly a defining nature of depression. And I think coinciding with the fact that like basically everybody is like overworked, overstimulated, exhausted and fed up, that is a natural natural result of all of those different kinds of situations, which will then exacerbate the irony, which will then exacerbate the hopelessness, and it just is kind of this really vicious cycle, which won't stop because of the semiocapitalist machine that is feeding into our brains literally all of the time, making it really, really hard to get out of this system that you cannot, that is so hard to get out of without like almost like extracting yourself from using this technology as they want you to use it. Like, this is something that I've been trying to do, like really just get a fucking handle on some of the doom scrolling that I do sometimes, like go outside more. Like, I like to research stuff for my videos and shit, but Like, I need to be careful, and you have to do that in order to like be mindful of what you're actually pumping into your fucking brain. With that in mind, like this very neatly goes into the next thing that he talked about as per my questions, which is networks. Like the 21st century is very much defined by the idea of a network, as I mentioned earlier. Like social media was rising, Amazon was rising as this like physical or as this like this beacon of consumerist interconnectivity, allowing us to go beyond what we may have thought before, making us even more prone to like short-term hits of dopamine and being more focused on the present because of the access that we then have. And all of this leads to like the general idea of connectivity becoming like significantly less rare, which like in theory is like good, but if it's so like fast and like thin and like fragmented in ways, like there's a kind of a loss of depth to making actual real connection, because sometimes I don't think people realize just how valuable true connection is. And I like I've had this experience like plenty of times over the past like 7 years of my life, with like meeting friends on Discord, like dating apps, trying to meet people. Like it's so fast to like meet a person and then be like, oh yeah, cool, we're having fun. And then like a week or two later, you just like stop talking to them. Like, and it just happens so frequently that like it's just so hard, I feel, to maintain and develop new connections, because I think people take them for granted more. Like there's less internal value put on these connections, which make it harder to connect with people. And I wish that wasn't the case, because like I cognizantly try to like do that. And sometimes like, you know, if I like feel something dying out, like try to talk to people more or whatever, but like I don't feel that same reciprocation, and it just sucks, and it like makes me feel lonely sometimes trying to like make new friends, because it's hard to make friends in your 30s, as I've noticed, like even in person. But this isn't my therapy session, so I'm not gonna fucking talk about that. And then to kind of like cap it off a little bit with my last questions. Man, this is going so much smoother when I'm just like actually following the fucking questions that I'm writing out for you guys. Like I just fucking rambled about a bunch of random shit incoherently on the first one, but damn, fucking stupid. The point about panic as this like last point in our emotional journey, I think that he talks about, is like this another form of paralysis, which reduces the ability to actually have meaningful mobilization on issues and things that we actually want to see change in the world. But instead, once again, this like feeling of meaninglessness, of helplessness, of uselessness feels so prevalent that people like me will have panic attacks over some things and almost feel crippled, which sucks a lot, and it feels really bad when it happens to me. But I try to do things when that's not happening to make it feel less bad. It sucks. Like I really liked one of the things that Berardi said that like kind of links all of this, like production, semiocapital, irony, depression, decline of optimism, to get together. Is he says something along the lines of like, when we are continually flooded with like data like all of the notifications we have from social media, from arbitrary performance demands and emotional expectations from how we're expected to perform at our jobs, to like group dynamics, to being like bombarded with shit online that can give us like decision paralysis. Like that paralysis extends everywhere else. Like we freeze. You know, like I freeze. Like executive dysfunction has been something that I've suffered with my ADHD for basically my entire life. And when I'm not medicated, like there are certain points where like I literally just have to sit on my floor for an undefined amount of time until I can like literally manage to bring myself to move. And like it isn't even like stuff that like I have to. It's even like hobbies and shit, like doing stuff like this. Like I felt like I wanted to get this episode out like a week and a half ago, but like just this past couple weeks have been really bad. And then eventually like this panic depressive state, this irony poisoning becomes like this default state of mood instead of this vision of like hopeful optimism. This idea to pursue something greater than yourself, this vision of the future that is really important and cool and beautiful, and just we need so much more of. Oh God, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I need a drink of Capri Sun. Don't drink alcohol, kids, unless you look cool doing it. Okay, cool. That was book club talking time number dos. This was cool. To the people who actually like gave some responses to my questions on the first thing, like you're beautiful. I love you. That's amazing. I actually like followed my questions this fucking time. Mostly. I will do it more next time. I promise. Thank you. That was super cool to see people like engaging with this. And I can't wait to read all your answers. And I meant to reply to some of them and offer clarification, but then life happened. But I promise I will do that soon. And not just be a piece of shit. Anyways, I hope you're enjoying this book. I like it a lot. I'm really excited to talk about the last couple chapters. It will not be like fucking more than a month before I post another one of these. I'd ideally like to do this like every 3 weeks or so. Jesus Christ. Anyways, I will be posting a regular big video soon. Thank you for washing my shit and being irresponsible and your money with your money, and I hope you're getting some enrichment out of this because it's cool and it helps me be alive. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.